Your favorites on the menu today. Hey guys, welcome back to At the Table. Today we are continuing with our favorite foods swapped a little bit healthier. So my all-time favorite food, hands down, is pizza. Now, of course, it's hard to recreate a pizza and make it healthy that tastes just like what you would get carry out from a restaurant. But these are two really good recipes that I have tried. The personal pizzas we make all the time because they're very quick, they're very easy to make. They don't take a lot of time. The cauliflower pizza is something a little bit different. If you wanted a different pizza crust, you're trying to watch the amount of bread you're taking in, up your vegetables, this cauliflower pizza recipe is really good. So what I've done so far, the recipe calls for about 1 head of cauliflower, and it will end up being about 3 cups of cauliflower. So what you do is you go ahead and cut it off. Make sure that you try to get as little of the stem as possible when you were chopping that up, and then put it in your food processor or blender or whatever you have and get it into really small pieces. Now I will say this can be a bit messy. You can have bits of cauliflower floating around because once they get tiny, they do stick very easily. But still, it makes for a great consistency in your crust. It's not going to be exactly like a regular pizza crust. You cannot fool somebody and tell somebody this is normal pizza, but it's still a really great healthy option to me that tastes just as good if you have an open mind that it's a little bit different than your traditional pizza. So what we're actually going to do, our recipe calls for us to either put this in the microwave for 5 minutes or steam it for 5 minutes on the stovetop. Now I have made a couple different cauliflower crust recipes because, as I said, I love pizza. I'm always trying to find ways to fit it into my diet that's still healthy. But that was a bit hard to, I've tried a couple different things, and the way that I've done with this one that to me has been the best in terms of consistency is putting it in a pan and just trying to get as much of that water content out as possible rather than steaming it or microwaving it. So that's what we're gonna do today. So I've got our pan on low. You don't want to really cook it. This burner gets really hot, so I might even need to switch it, but I have it on low, and we're just gonna try to kind of toast that cauliflower, get some of the water out, and that will help with the consistency of our crust. When I have made this in the past, when I do it in the microwave, or if I've done it over the stove and kind of steamed it that way, it ends up making it a little bit more, I want to say it's just not as firm as what you would aim to have in a crust. So to me, when I've done it this way, it's helped to kind of firm that crust up by reducing the amount of water. And we do end up squeezing some of the water out. That's another step that we'll do. But this way you have a little bit less water to squeeze out, and it just helps with, again, the consistency. Sometimes cauliflower crust recipes, you'll end up having them where they fall apart. They don't really hold up well. You end up having to eat it with a fork or something like that. So our goal is to try to reduce that and get it to be a nice firm crust that you can just pick up and eat, just like we get with traditional pizza. All right, so we're gonna cook that for just maybe 2 to 3 more minutes. I'll finish this up and then we'll see you guys back in just 1 second.
Whether you're returning from a family vacation, coming back from college, or even returning from serving our country, we know there's no place like home. And here at Performance Ford, we want to make sure you get there. That's why every Performance certified vehicle comes with the Performance Lifetime Powertrain Warranty. Performance Ford, welcome home.
Introducing the Star Communications app. All the tools you need in one convenient location. You can access Watch TV everywhere. Check local channel lineup. Check your Star email. View and pay your Star bill. Report troubles. Use your Star Security app. Check your home voicemail. Sign up for Crowd Fiber. Check your Wi-Fi speed. The list keeps going and going. Download for free from the App Store or Google Play.
Hey guys, all right, so we have our cauliflower that has cooled off. We put it in the fridge. If it didn't get quite cool enough, that's okay. It doesn't need to be extremely cold, but you do just want it to be kind of colder than warm. You want it to be cool, just so it's not quite as hot, and it will helps it to kind of easily stick together when you're making the crust. So what we're gonna do next, I've got a little bowl here and just a dish towel. And we're gonna pour this in and squeeze the water out. So this, when I mentioned what recipes we were doing, I said I make the personal pizzas all the time. That's because this one's kind of a lot of work, but it'll turn out really well. And if you're trying to get more of those veggies in and go kind of that cauliflower pizza route, this is a good one to do. But it is time consuming. So we are just gonna try to squeeze as much water out as possible. You guys can see all that's coming out. You do need a nice sturdy dish towel because if it has any holes in it or anything like that, the cauliflower can start to squeeze through. Oh, I'm dropping some cauliflower. And you need nice strong hands when you're doing this as well. It really does take some effort to just get all of that water out. All right, so that's pretty good. That's about as much as I can get, but you can see there's a good bit of water that came out of that, and that is part of what kind of hinders it from sticking. So you kind of see our big ball over here now. Set that to the side. And it looks more like dough. So we're starting to get into that dough consistency, which is what we want. So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna add in all of our seasonings. So we have a little bit of oregano here. We're gonna do half a teaspoon of that. And this is just what's gonna help to flavor our crust. And we are gonna have half a teaspoon of, or sorry, this is a quarter teaspoon of oregano, quarter teaspoon of basil. If you don't have these seasonings, you could just do an Italian seasoning, pretty similar to that. Then we're gonna add a little bit of garlic powder. I can get the lid off. Well, we're just gonna dump it in. Quarter cup of this, quarter teaspoon, goodness, I keep saying cup. And then quarter teaspoon of salt. And we have 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. So you could get the really finely shredded Parmesan, or like this is just, you know, what I could find at the store. You could chop this up further if you want to help it spread out. I'm just gonna skip that step. This will work just as well. And then our last thing is our egg. I'm gonna try to make some room. And we're just gonna beat that really quick and then mix it with our dough. All right, And then you can just use your hands and just really get in there, mix it well. And then we'll end up pressing it out. So I have a pan here. I thought I had a pizza pan here at the office. I did not. Have a million at home. I should have brought one. But we have just a regular baking pan and just did a little bit of parchment paper and some cooking spray on that. So once you get your dough made, you're going to transfer it over. I'm gonna get it all transferred first. This is a really fun one if you've got kids or grandkids. Something that they can do, get kind of messy in the kitchen. Kids love doing that. And it definitely is one, it takes a little bit of time, so it's something that you could spend that quality time in the kitchen with your kids, your grandkids, making a healthy dish. And when kids are involved in cooking, they're more likely to eat what they made. So if you're having trouble getting them to eat their vegetables, invite them to make a pizza. And they're gonna love squeezing that cauliflower and all the messy stuff that we don't enjoy quite as much when we get to be adults. So you could make this into a circle. Mine's kind of a, I don't even know what this is. It's not quite a circle or a square. I was gonna go the square route, but it's looking more like a circle here. You want it to be about 10 to 12 inches, so we're about there. And we have our oven on, I believe it's 425, yep. And then you're gonna cook that, you're gonna cook your crust for about 10 to 20 minutes. So keeping an eye on it, you wanna just cook it until it's nice and brown. And then it'll be ready. And one thing I did not mention that I meant to mention earlier, when you were sauteing it on the stovetop over here, you want it to get to the point where it kind of starts to stick together. That way it'll build that sticky consistency that we want of a crust, and it will kind of work better for you. So saute it about 5 minutes until it starts to kind of stick together, and then pull it off. You don't want to overcook the cauliflower. So this is ready. It looks great. Looks like a pizza crust. We're gonna throw it in the oven for 10 to 20 minutes, keeping an eye on it until it gets brown. I'm gonna wash my hands, and we'll see you guys back in just 1 second.
Getting a new car or truck doesn't have to be difficult or expensive. Just let Performance Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram swap keys with you. Bring in your current vehicle, we'll swap keys and get you into a new car with the Performance Peace of Mind lifetime powertrain warranty for the same or less than you're paying now. We've got a lot full of vehicles to choose from, and there's never been a better time to shop than the Start Something New sales event. It's about performance, and performance is taking care of you.
Many things have been stolen away during this time of uncertainty. No crowds to cheer on their favorite teams. Applause and pageantry have been stripped away. Thieves are looking to make your home empty and silent. Star Communications has the answer you are looking for. Security by Star. Automation and affordability along with friendly service makes for a security choice that is sure to keep your family cheering.
So our crust is in the oven. It's gonna get nice and brown. While that's cooking, we are gonna move on to chopping up some of our veggies. Now, I chose to use green onions today instead of white onions. Personally, I get some indigestion when I have raw onions, and even just cooking them in the oven for like 8 to 10 minutes doesn't cook them well enough for me to not get that indigestion. So I usually cook my onions on a stovetop and then add them to my pizza, or if you've got green onions, you can use those. So that is what we're gonna use here. I'm just gonna chop these up. You can do whatever veggies you want to do on your pizza. This is definitely kind of a make your own. The recipe we have for our cauliflower crust pizza is, it has kind of like veggies on top. It's got the spinach, the red pepper, and the onion, which we're doing green onion here. So that one is, it's a little bit more specific, but you could, like I said, change that up. Do any type of toppings you want and just follow the crust part of making your pizza. So I just have a little pie plate here to put all of my toppings on, and that way you can spread it all around of whatever you want to put it on. Whoever wants to put that on their pizza. So we're just gonna top that red pepper, and then I like to just cut it slowly around where those kind of grooves are on the inside, and that removes your seed. So that helps to get rid of the seeds without you having to deal with a lot of that everywhere. Sometimes you'll still get a few pieces of that membrane that you didn't quite get all the seeds off. That's okay. And that is a new technique I learned from one of my fellow FCS agents who covers Johnston and Wilson counties. That's how she always cuts her peppers. So you could do this in strips. I like everything in bite-sized pieces, so I'm gonna cut it all the way up. I also have some roasted red peppers in the fridge, and those would be really great as well on pizza. So you could really use whatever you have on hand. Fresh vegetables are delicious, but you can easily buy things like roasted vegetables, your roasted red peppers, or canned vegetables or fruit to throw on top of your pizza as well. It doesn't have to be all fresh ingredients. And I'm only going to use half of this, so we'll save that other half for another day. All right. And then we are going to chop up some sun-dried tomatoes. So these are just what I had in our fridge here at the extension office. If you haven't tried sun-dried tomatoes, you need to give them a try because they are absolutely delicious. I typically buy the ones that are julienned, but these, I think they were out of them, so I just ended up buying the halves. Since I bought those in halves, I'm gonna just chop them up a little bit further. That way I can get a little bit of the sun-dried tomato in several bites versus just one big sun-dried tomato chunk. And sun-dried tomatoes have kind of a sweet flavor to them. They're a little bit different than what you would think with your traditional tomato. So I definitely recommend you give them a try sometime because they're so good, they're so delicious. Even if you don't like regular tomatoes, you might like sun-dried tomatoes. All right, and then I've got spinach. We'll just add that. You know, from there, we're not gonna chop that up. You could definitely cut it up further into little ribbons if you wanted it to kind of stretch more. But I've got some ham here. And on one of our personal pizzas, we're gonna add a little bit of ham. So you could also just, you know, not even cut this with a knife, just have somebody tear it up, your kids tear it up, or you tear it up, rather than having to use a knife to do all of that. All right, so we've got all of our veggies and our ham done. We're gonna carry that over to our personal pizza station, and we're gonna see you guys back in just 1 second.
Sweetie, will you turn that down, please?
Keep life exciting, even when it's not. Watch TV everywhere from Star Communications.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping home secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody somebody trying to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
All right, so we've got our pizza out. You can see the cauliflower crust looks really great. It's got a little bit of that golden hue, and you can see around the edges that it's got some of that as well. Some kind of nice crispy crust there. You could cook this for a little bit longer if you would like. I love a good crispy crust, so I would probably even leave it in just a little bit longer, but keep in mind, you are going to be topping this with your toppings and then throwing it back in the oven. So you don't want to get it cooked perfectly because it's gonna cook further for about 8 to 10 minutes. So just keep that in mind. I like to try to leave it a little more underdone than I typically enjoy it, so that when it is baking with all the toppings, it'll be nice and crispy. So the other recipe that I have over here is our personal pizzas that I told you I make all the time. So these are ones that are quick, they're easy. If I am stressed for time or didn't have a whole lot of time to go to the grocery store, we will make these, at home. So what I'm gonna do first with our personal pizzas, first off, you just use any type of pita bread, or you could use flatbreads here. I love these Joseph's pita bread. It's a flax, oat bran, and whole wheat bread. So it's got lots of whole grains in there, and it has pretty good flavor too. So I'm just going to, from experience, I've realized that I need to poke a few holes in the bottom of my pita bread because it will blow up. It'll start to expand in the oven with that hot air. So we're gonna flip it over once you get those holes in there, and that way it won't do that. That can really mess up your bread, your crust. So do that on the bottom, flip it over, and then we're gonna add our sauce. Actually, first we're gonna add our olive oil. I have one of those little sprayers at home. That was definitely too much. You only want maybe 1/4 teaspoon here. And I love my sprayer just because I can kind of control the amount of oil I'm putting, versus when you're pouring it on, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. But your oil just helps to further crisp up your crust, and it makes it taste really good too. And then we're gonna do just a little bit of that same oil on our cauliflower crust as well. So the key to good crust is just a little bit of oil spread around. All right. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of Italian seasoning here on my personal pizzas. Our cauliflower crust, remember we seasoned our crust already. These pita breads are not seasoned. They're just, your plain crust. So need a little bit of extra seasoning there. And then I have just a traditional pizza sauce. You could use, you could use tomato sauce, you could use a pasta sauce. Sometimes I just use tomato sauce and I season it myself, if that's what I have. Like I said, this is kind of a last minute decision, or when we're stressed for time, or I haven't been to the store. So a lot of times I make these pizzas with few things on hand. And then we're doing the same thing, adding our sauce to our cauliflower one. And you can see I'm just using the back of the spoon. Makes for easier cleanup. You could also use kind of a basting brush here if you want to do that. But I feel like the spoon works just as good. Okay. And next we got our cheese. The best part, right? This is just mozzarella cheese. I have used like the Mexican blend before. We've got an Italian blend in the fridge here. So you could use whatever cheese you have on hand and whatever you like. And this is where we want to kind of monitor that. We don't want to go too crazy with the cheese. For one, cheese can weigh down your pizzas that you're making, so just kind of weighs it down. It makes it more difficult for you to keep it from getting soggy and all of that. But we also want to be mindful of our cheese, because if you look at our My Plate, the cheese is a small little portion of our My Plate, right? So we want to kind of stay within that portion size, keep it controlled. Just enough cheese so that you can taste it and it kind of goes around, but it doesn't need to necessarily be where you can't see any of the red underneath. My husband would probably argue with that statement, but when I make his pizzas, he still likes them, and that's how I make them, so don't tell. All right, so I am definitely a pineapple pizza girl. I know there's a lot of thoughts on this. Some people hate it, some people love it. I am definitely a lover of the pineapple. So I'm gonna do like a pineapple and ham on one of these. And then the other one, I'll just use the rest of this ham that I've got here. And then we can add your peppers, whatever you want to add on your pizza. This is your pizza. This is why they're personal pizzas. You can just customize it, make it your own. I'm gonna add a little sun-dried tomato over here too. All right, and then we'll put a little green onion on our cauliflower one, and some spinach. Now our recipe calls for a whole cup of spinach, which to me just seems like kind of a lot to make work on a pizza. Now I have seen pizzas where you have it loaded with greens on top, and that's good. It's definitely good if you want to go that route, but you can make this your own, whatever you prefer. Red pepper on this one, and that's pretty much it for that. So super simple. I mean, you just make these however you like them. Throw them in the oven. We've got the oven on 425 still, so we'll throw them in the oven and we'll show you guys what they look like. Quick, easy meal, a way to still get your pizza into your diet while it's still a little bit healthier for you. Thanks guys, we'll see you next time.